Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Email Never Sleeps. I'm excited today because we actually have a really interesting topic, but more importantly, I'm more interested in learning from Matt Ratliff, who is with FunnelTechie. Matt, give us a little brief background about yourself and your company.
Yeah, so FunnelTechie is my brand. I opened that company back in 2019
Cool.
as a way to help ClickFunnels users with their back-end integrations, with their sales funnels, doing anything under the sun to help those guys out.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I started. Now,
yeah,
my background is in computer network engineering. So I've got 20 plus years of that experience.
yeah.
And I've literally been all over the globe. I've built networks for hospitals, colleges, mom and pop businesses, manufacturing firms. So I've got a large tech background. So 2019, I opened up FunnelTechie. And then the middle part of last year, through that avenue, I had a client that came to me and said, Matt, my email deliverability sucks. Can you
Yeah,
help me? And
yeah,
I said, I've got some email experience. So, because I used to build a Microsoft Exchange email servers.
oh,
So I
cool.
dove into it
Yeah,
and I loved it. I helped her, got it fixed, corrected. And since then, it's been what has paid the bills since the middle part of last year.
yeah.
And that's where I plan to stay.
Well, as you know, our listeners love practical advice. And,
Mhm.
today's topic is how do I check my own email reputation? And what's
Yeah.
really interesting is I'm pretty sure you probably get fielded this question. I know I field this question a lot. And a lot of people that are in email marketing probably say to themselves, gosh, it seems like this dark black magic thing about deliverability, but I don't have the budget and I need to check it on my own, but I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So I guess the one thing is, you said you helped a client and probably help a lot of your clients. What
Mhm.
are some practical advices that you have or practical advice that you have, or how do people just start to check their own email reputation?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's interesting. There's not necessarily a single spot that you could go because there's a ton of stuff that is under the hood you got to be privy to.
Mhm.
So the best thing to do, in my opinion, to start out is to go to postmaster.google.com. Okay, that is a feedback loop.
Right.
You're going to get some valuation from that specific inbox provider. So you're sending an email to inbox providers. So you're
Yes.
really after how do they view you? So
Mhm.
that is the very first thing that I would do with Postmaster, postmaster.google.com. It's free.
Mhm.
You don't have to have a dedicated IP. It's going to show you a ton of stuff under the hood. But the things that you're looking at is your spam rate, your domain reputation, and then it also gives you the IP reputation. So
Mhm.
there's two facets. Your domain reputation is
Right.
one item,
Right.
but the IP reputation is another big factor that people tend to forget about. And
Right.
really, that's the very first factor that I would potentially look at, to be
Mhm.
honest. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things. Microsoft has feedback loops as well.
Right.
But the caveat there is that you've got to have a dedicated IP in order to get into their feedback system.
Sure. Sure.
Yahoo has one as well.
Mhm.
So those are the places that I would look for. That's the very first thing that I would do.
Mhm.
Um, I know that Sender Score, I forget their website, but you can get some decent stats from them. I don't
Mhm.
know. I've never used their service.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you've used it, Andrew,
I have.
but
Yeah, I have. And it's a love-hate relationship, right? I
yeah,
mean, a lot of people said it's too old technology. Some people
yeah,
think it's great. I've got both a positive and a negative reputation about them, but they certainly
yeah,
have done it.
yeah.
You mentioned something interesting, and you
Yep.
said checking your IP reputation or your
Yeah.
domain reputation. And I think for everybody that's listening out there needs to understand is, your brand has this reputation. Like we all had this reputation in high school, right? You're
Yep.
a jock or a stoner or a nerd or whatever. The same
Yeah.
thing happens in email, right? You
Yeah.
establish this reputation based off of what you do. And
Exactly.
and so when we look at these tools, even a Google Postmaster, right? They're determining the reputation not by what others do, but by what you do. So the first step in checking your reputation, and you give great advice, going to like Google Postmaster, is to take a step back and say, what am I doing that could potentially affect my reputation, right? So it all starts with, how do I check my reputation? Well, check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? I forget
Exactly.
what that was. From what other tips? What other tips do you have for people?
Well, so the other thing, practice really good list hygiene, because let's say that you're sending out to a list that maybe you've exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are simply, getting your emails, but they see the email from you. They're
Mm-hmm.
not opening it, so they're not engaging with it, and they're simply deleting it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you, depending on your email volume, that could potentially hurt you. So
Mm-hmm.
watch your engagement metrics, because the more people that don't engage with you, it's going to cause a degradation of your sending reputation, or your reputation as a whole. So
Right.
keep an eye on that. And that's very critical. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely the complaint rates, right? So keep an eye on that. The rule of thumb, I like to paint a picture of one complaint out of 1,000 emails. So what is that? If we put that into percentage, that's what, 0.1%.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a really good metric to live by from a complaint standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think too, when we start talking about checking your own reputation, you make a really good point, right? Good, proper list hygiene. This is sort of like owning a car, right? You kind of
Yeah.
have to keep it up. You kind of have to maintain it. But more importantly, when you're looking at your engagement rates, whether you look towards click rates, click to open rates, whatever that engagement conversions, whatever that engagement is, separate it out by your top domains. That's an important aspect, right?
Yeah.
If 70% of your list is weighted towards Gmail or weighted towards Yahoo, what you have to look at is over a period of time. Are people disengaging from your list or from emails that you're sending at a rapid pace? That could
Yeah.
potentially mean that you've got some reputation damage. The other thing is too is, repetition. Sometimes people kind of get into that groove about sending emails, boom, 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 but they
Yeah.
don't really realize that that potentially is a brand damage, and that
Mhm.
can affect your IP reputation. So there's not only tools, there's ways to look at it inside your subscriber base. What else? If I come to you and say I have a Yahoo reputation, how do I check? My list is weighted towards Yahoo pretty heavily. What would you suggest somebody do?
Well, certainly be a part of their feedback loop system. They do have one. I've helped a few clients get on board with it. That's the very first thing that I would do. I
Mm-hmm.
forget the URL to go to, guys, but
Yep.
check it out, look into it, become a part of it.
Right.
That's very critical.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the one thing that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to sidestep a little bit real quick,
Yeah,
Andrew. So
sure.
another thing that you could do from a reputation standpoint is to use what's called Cisco Talos.
Ooh.
And it's an intelligence system that basically combines data from all of these different entities. Cisco, that's really the world that I come from. So I use their product to build computer networks. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you go to Cisco Talos, you can put in your domain name to see what kind of information they've got on you. So
Mm-hmm.
there's, all kinds of different things that they would look at under the hood. So
Right.
maybe your website, your domain is
Yep.
considered maybe neutral. Maybe it's going into the favorable route. Maybe it's good. So
Interesting.
it would be worthwhile to look at that. Plus, they also do a really quick check on any real-time blacklists for your domain and the sending IPs that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
So those there's only about 4 or 5 critical blacklists to know about, and I'll
Yeah.
name them real quick. It's Spam Hoss,
Yep.
Spam Cop.
Mm-hmm.
I like to include Barracuda in this.
I do too.
Sorbs, sort of. I'll go back and forth on Sorbs.
Yep. Yep.
Those, yeah. So, and then abuse
Yep.
at is another huge one. So
Mm-hmm.
keep an eye on those. So if ever you show up on those from a domain level,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a part of whatever IP infrastructure, the IPs that you're sending out on, if they're a
Mm-hmm.
part of that, do your best to figure that out and get delisted, because it's going to do a lot of benefit for you if you can.
And I think it's really interesting, Matt, that people talk about checking my reputation. How often do you advise people to check their reputation? Right? I've got my opinion, but I'd love to hear yours.
Well, so I like to do it as often as possible, honestly.
Yeah.
So really, ideally, I mean, you get someone that is running their business. They don't have time to always do this. And that's the furthest thing from their mind sometimes. But I say bare minimum, let's check at least once every 30 days.
Mhm.
That's what I like to see people do. Just kind of get used to it. Now, with what I do, I'm checking stuff constantly, but that's just my nature. I'm very anal from that aspect. But
Yep.
if you're running your business, or if you got someone that's kind of over the whole email game,
Right.
get used to doing it every 30 days, because there could have been a lot that has transpired over the past weeks.
And tools, ESPs, iPost included, and others
Mhm.
provide tools to help you, right? And
Yep.
oftentimes people get confused or don't feel like they have to do regular maintenance, right? And to look at that, everything's fine, I should do whatever. But I agree. Every 30 days, if you're sending out a lot of email, maybe every couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks, especially if you're sending email regularly, or if you're starting to see an exponential growth in your list, right? However you acquire an email address, that's a topic for a different day. But to really look at it, if you're really kind of in the upswing of how much email sort of coming in. One point that I want to make is that there's a lot of um, uh, content out there
Mhm.
to help people help themselves. We shouldn't always have to rely on the ESP or somebody else. But if you can't, if it's really just a part of your small business, that's where experts sort of come into play. But if you're struggling for budget, if you're struggling for a lot of different things, gosh, there's just so much help in the email community. There's so many different people out there that can provide you guidance around specific things. And remember, everybody, it's not a one size fits all, right? There's
Yeah.
never one sort of way to fix something.
Yeah.
That's why, experts like you, Matt, or myself, right? We have to ask the questions because it's not necessarily always just cut and dry to check your reputation or to get you off a blacklist, or some people call it a block list,
Yeah.
right? But it makes us better, stronger marketers. So any other tips before we kind of do a quick wrap up? Or you got anything else for
You,
our audience?
honestly, I could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to stop there because I
Yeah,
tend to be a little bit long-winded sometimes. But those are the principles to look for and keep top of mind when you're checking your reputation.
very good. So everybody, I think the big key takeaway here is there's plenty of resources. Go out there and search for it. If you have budget, hire experts, but get involved. This is not a part of just you're out on your own. Thank you very much. Your reputation is very important, and that could be the difference between you actually seeing even a greater positive ROI in your email efforts. There's a lot to happen here, and reputation, it all starts with reputation, right? You can't get in the inbox, you got a bad reputation, guess what? No matter what you do, you're never gonna
Yep.
succeed. um,
Exactly.
Matt Ratliff of FunnelTechie, I really appreciate your time today. It was
Thanks,
great
Andrew.
chatting with you.
It's been a pleasure.
And those interested, go look him up online. And if you're a mountain bike advocate too, or a person that loves mountain biking, he just told me he loves to talk about mountain biking. So get a hold of him. But I appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you for taking part in Email Never Sleeps, both from recording as well as listening. I appreciate everybody out there. Thanks again.